Well, Prime Minister, welcome to the programme. How much trouble are you in?
Well, we've got a lot of hard work to do. We've achieved great things in the first year of the Labour government. We said we would do 2 million extra NHS appointments. We've done 5 million, and confidence in the NHS is going up, so that's a good thing. We said that we'd rolled out childcare. This is childcare from 9 months to 4 years. For parents and carers, that's thousands of pounds saved. For children, it's a game changer. I am sick and tired of stories about 4-year-olds arriving in reception, some reading quite well, others virtually in nappies. So we're going to change that and make sure every single child gets to the starting line of education in an equal position. And just this month, we've introduced the Hillsborough Law, which is going to change thousands of lives. We won the order for frigates from Norway. That's £10 billion. That's 15 years of shipbuilding on the Clyde. So there's a lot we've achieved, but we've got to do more. We inherited a complete mess, a broken economy, broken public services. We said we would change that, and I always said that would take time.
And yet,
but I do understand people are frustrated because if they lived through 14 years of failure, they want change to come more quickly. So I do understand the frustration.
That's a different thing than you admitting that you are in quite a bit of political trouble. The very latest opinion poll suggests if there were an election right now, Labour would have fewer than 100 seats. So how much trouble are you in?
Well, Laura, we won last year in July a mandate to change the country.
How much trouble are you in right now?
I always said that would take time. We will be judged at the next election, quite rightly, on whether we have improved living standards, people feel better off, on whether the public services are better, particularly the NHS, and whether people feel safe and secure in their own community.
But I'm asking you about the situation right now, because there are a lot of people in your own party coming here to Liverpool who really worry about what's been going on. Do you accept that you are in political trouble?
Laura, in politics, there are always going to be comments about leaders and leadership, particularly at times like conference.
There aren't always polls that put the governing party so far behind.
I always focus on what is it we're trying to achieve. What are we delivering? Just this month, the Hillsborough Law. That is so important. You were with me at the Liverpool Echo
and we've discussed that already.
Righting an injustice that's gone on for 36 years, but also changing the position for thousands of people in the future.
And you've mentioned that already. So let's talk about what else you're going to be talking about in the next few days. You've already admitted many people in the public are impatient and they're angry. Your answer is to call reform the enemy and promise patriotic renewal. What does that mean in brass tacks?
Well, patriotic renewal is fixing the problems in the country that we inherited, but changing the country as we do so. Let me just give you 2 or 3 practical examples. We've got to get the economy working. We've got to get wealth creation, but it needs to be everywhere across the country. And that is what I want to change. Not going back to economic growth that is in some parts of the country, but not all parts of the country. With the NHS, obviously, we need to fix it, but I want to do more than fix it. I want to make sure it's fit for the future. So that means bringing it closer to people, recognising the way in which disease and illness has changed, making sure we're using technology as we go forward. And the other thing is changing the relationship between the state and people. So last Thursday, we rolled out the Pride in Place funding. This is 10 years worth of funding to places which, in my view, have been overlooked for too long. But what's different is instead of those places having to come to Whitehall, cap in hand, asking for approval of what's needed in their place, we've said, you've got skin in the game, you've got a better idea what's going to work in your community, you make those decisions. So it's about renewing, but it's patriotic because it's about bringing the whole country with us. I love and have pride in my country, and I want to serve the whole of our country, our beautiful, tolerant, diverse country, and I want to serve the whole of that country. And I was arguing against reform because reform do not believe in that country. They want to tear that country apart. What was said last week about deporting migrants who are lawfully here, who've been here for years, working in our hospitals, in our schools, running businesses, our neighbours, and Reform say they want to deport them. That would tear our country apart.
Is that immoral?
We are at the moment a leading member of the coalition of the willing, corralling and bringing together European countries to fight the aggression of Putin. Imagine if reform came in and they were cozying up to Putin.
But
and
on that policy specifically,
the impact that would have on our security and defence. And that's why I say to my party, and my main message to this conference is, this is a different fight. It is a fight about the future of our country, about who we are as patriots, what patriotism is, and what we stand for in our place in the world. It's a fight we must be in, and it's a fight we must win. And I'm absolutely determined that we will.
But for many people, there has been concern about what's going on in this country because of immigration. And you yourself said on Friday that the left got it wrong on illegal immigration. When did you realise you'd got it wrong?
Well, I thought for some time that the left got it wrong because...
Well, when did you realise that?
I mean, soon after I was a politician, I went to Oldham and met a number of people there who wanted to tell me what their concerns were.
So what, more than 10 years ago, you thought illegal immigration
we've
was gone
got
wrong?
this wrong, and we needed to we need to understand what people's concerns are.
So what did you do about it then?
Well, we came into power 1 year ago. One of my frustration is I came into politics and I spent 9 years in opposition. That means 9 years voting and losing. We've had 1 year in power, and what we've done is take measures to improve law enforcement to tackle illegal migration. I want to strengthen the powers of those who enforce our borders, our law enforcement through the Borders Bill, reform, and the Tories vote against that. We've struck a returns deal with France that means for the first time since we left the EU, because back in the days of the EU we could actually return to France and other countries. Now we can return to France. We're doing, we've done 35,000 returns since we've been in power, which is the highest number for nearly 10 years.
Have you ever been to see an asylum hotel?
Yes, I have seen an asylum hotel.
And what did you think when you went there? When you went to which community? Can you tell us where you went?
I want to reduce the number of people in asylum hotels. I want to empty those asylum hotels. I completely understand the frustration that people have in relation to the hotels. It frustrates me because what happened was we inherited tens of thousands of asylum claims which hadn't been processed by the last government. You have got to process them. So they then opened the hotels to put people into hotels. It's my job to empty it. So what I've done to do that is to ensure that we've got many more people processing claims. Where we process claims and people have found that they've got no right to be here, we're returning them to the country they came from more than ever before.
By 2029, which is more than 3 years away.
Yeah, I'd like to bring that forward. I'd like to bring that forward.
But will you commit to bringing that forward?
Well, we've got to process the claims. I'm looking at alternative accommodation and doing everything we can to bring that forward. I do understand the concern. But it was a problem with, if you leave tens of thousands of people and don't process their claims, they are in a place where they can't go backwards or forward. They can't be returned to the country they came from because they haven't been processed.
And you've talked about the long-term build-up of these problems.
Our job as ever is to fix the problems we inherited.
But what about what's happening right now? Because you have been in power now for 14 months. This is not, you haven't just walked through the door of number 10. Is it fair for asylum seekers to have taxis paid for them by the taxpayer to go to doctor's appointments, sometimes hundreds of miles away? Is that fair?
No, it isn't.
Will you stop it immediately?
It shouldn't be happening. It's not fair, and I understand that. We will stop it.
Immediately?
Well, as soon as we can, but we will stop it. It's not fair. I completely understand that. And it shouldn't be happening.
Is it fair for asylum seekers to be allowed to appeal more than once? Of course, the right of appeal is part of our justice system, but as things stand, asylum seekers can appeal more than once if they are told they have to leave the country.
Well, I want to look at the rights of appeal and see whether we can't improve that, because there are too many examples of, for example, people coming here on student visas, doing their studies, and at the end of that exercise, then claiming asylum. We've got, even in the last few weeks, when we've had the returns agreement up with France, when we've tried to return people, there are claims put in hours before the return, which could have been put in weeks before. So we need to look across the board. I think we need to look at every aspect of illegal migration, upstream, looking at the causes, which of course are often poverty, climate change, persecution, look at the causes, and as a global leader, see what we can do about that with other countries. Much more law enforcement, particularly with France on the northern border, processing those claims, returning people who shouldn't be here, looking across the appeal system to see whether we can't make it more effective and more efficient. All of that needs to be done, including introducing, as I announced this week, digital ID, so that we are clear in the principle that you cannot work in the United Kingdom if you do not have ID.
How many people?
Because too many people are able to get into the black economy and work illegally in this country, and we need to deal with that and deal with that effectively.
One of our viewers got in touch and wanted us to ask this question. Russ Brown wanted us to ask you if you really believe that those profiting from human trafficking will think, oh dear, I have to check your digital ID now. I can't carry on paying you £1.50 an hour to work in my sweatshop.
I'm absolutely convinced that amongst the reasons that people travel through France, which is a safe country, to come to the United Kingdom, amongst the reasons is because it's easier to work in our illegal economy than it is in other countries. And we have to deal with that.
Bosses who are prepared to hire people illegally are not asking them for their national insurance card. So what's the evidence? What makes you think they're suddenly going to ask them for a digital ID?
We need to be really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID, in order to work, because we have to stop illegal working. If you look at any of the raids, we've massively increased the number of raids on working premises. It is absolutely clear that people are working illegally in numbers.
But why do you think that them having a digital ID, having to have a digital ID, would stop that problem, when right now people are meant to have a national insurance number and card, and if they're not asked for that, a boss is willing already to break the rules? What's the difference going to be?
Well, the difference is this is on point of starting, not a retrospective exercise as it now is. It is an automatic collection of the information by the government, so we know exactly who is working in our economy, and it will help us enforce the rules that are there. But there's no point people saying to me, why do we need it, when we all acknowledge there is a problem. People are working illegally in our economy. It is amongst the reasons that people want to come to the United Kingdom. We have to deal with that. I made a pledge that we would do whatever was necessary, use whatever tools were available to deal with illegal migration. I intend to do so.
And you're presenting all of this in a sort of ideology, I suppose, an ideological point that you're making now, that we are in a new battle and that your party is up against an extreme party. You're sort of representing the mainstream as the extreme. You mentioned your grave concern about the reform policy, potentially to deport people who already live here. Do you think that's an immoral policy?
Yes, I do. And I think this is fundamental to who we are as a country. We are a proud, tolerant country, reasonable-minded, live and let live, and we are a diverse country where people have come here for centuries to this country to make up who we are. It is one thing to say we're going to remove illegal migrants, people who have no right to be here. I'm up for that. It is a completely different thing to say we are going to reach in to people who are lawfully here and start removing them. They are our neighbours. They're people who work in our economy. They are part of who we are. It will rip this country apart. And if you're patriotic, you want to serve the whole of your country, everybody in your country, and have an ability to bring that country together and walk forward towards the challenges. You cannot do that if you are divisive, if you only truly want to serve a section of our country. And that's why the fight with reform is different. Most elections have always been Labour or Conservative. This is a different election that we're facing. We have not had a proposition like reform in this country ever before. We've seen it in France and Germany and plenty of other countries. This is a different fight. It is a fight about who we are as a country. It goes to the soul of our future. It will be heard and the effects will be there for generations. And that's why I'm saying to my party, you know, it's all very well navel-gazing, but we've got a big argument to make here. We've got a big fight that we've got to be in, and we've got to win that fight.
You said that proposal is immoral, to deport people who are already here if they don't pass more stringent rules. Do you think it's a racist policy?
Well, I do think it is a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is. And
do you think that Reform UK is trying to appeal to racists?
No, I think that there are plenty of people who either vote reform or are thinking of voting reform who are frustrated. They had 14 years of failure under the Conservatives. They want us to change things. They may have voted Labour a year ago, and they want the change to come more quickly. I actually do understand that, because if for 14 years your living standards haven't got any better, and your public services have declined, then of course you want change.
But if for 14 months, Prime Minister, they've hired politicians and people in your government promise things, and then they see so little change, they are looking for somewhere else. And if we look for one of the things that you are announcing at this conference, your proposal to build new towns, for example, you're promising to build a dozen new towns, but when you look in detail at the policy, the number of new towns you're saying there will be by 2029, 5 years after you won the election, it's 3. And even those 3 places might still not get built because they have to go through all sorts of checks. So people look at that and hear that and think, you're not getting anything done. It's too timid. There's no urgency.
Well, firstly, we've said we're going to build 1.5 million homes. And
and planning approvals for new homes are at a record low.
The towns are part of that. The planning applications reflect the position a year ago because it takes time to come through. But just hear me out on this. 1.5 million homes. And the reason for that is because the dream of home ownership, that base camp for aspiration, for opportunity, has been effectively snuffed out for young people. People now, on average, over 35 before they can afford to get their own home. That is unacceptable. That is a whole generation that have lost out. And when you ask
people in the sector...
the new towns are part of what we're doing in the 1.5 million. But look, the central charge you're putting to me is a really important one. I said before the election, it will take more than 12 months to turn around 14 years of failure. And it will take more than 12 months. It will take time. That's why we needed a 5-year mandate. But do I understand the frustration that people have? If you've lived through 14 years without your money in your pocket and your public going up, your public services being what they should be, then of course you want change more quickly. But I can't sit here today, nor did I say before the election, this can all be turned around on a flick of a switch. It's going to take time.
You didn't. You did say it would take time, but what you and your party did not expect was this precipitous fall off a cliff in terms of your popularity. Leaders can be popular in hard times, and you're admitting there are hard times still, but your popularity has taken such a knock, and the country's finances are incredibly tight. There's huge pressure on public money, a budget coming up. Will you rule out raising VAT?
Well, Laura, just on the first point of your question, if I may, I came into politics to change lives for the better, to change our NHS and make sure that it was fit for purpose, to win investment in for jobs across the country. We've got record investment coming in.
Will you rule out raising VAT to pay for that?
We've done a massive exercise in Sizewell, where thousands of jobs now will be created as a result of that. The work we did with the US just a week ago on civil nuclear,
will you rule out raising VAT to pay for the public services
that is why I'm in politics, to change lives. It's not a popularity contest for me. It's about changing lives. On the question of the budget, obviously the budget will be in November, as you know, and I'm not going to sit here and set out what's going to be in the budget.
No, hang on, Prime Minister.
That isn't going to happen.
On dozens and dozens and dozens of occasions, you ruled out raising VAT. It's in the solemn document of your party's manifesto. You're the Prime Minister of this country. Can you rule out raising VAT?
The manifesto stands.
So you rule out raising VAT?
We made commitments in that manifesto, and the manifesto stands.
And income tax?
Obviously, the details, the manifesto stands. We made those commitments. But
and they will not be unpicked?
The manifesto stands, Laura. It can't be clearer than that.
Well, you can. It's a different thing saying the manifesto stands right now, or are you saying actually it will stand in perpetuity? You're not going to unpick those promises?
Well, we put that manifesto before the electorate. We got elected, and that manifesto stands. I'm not going to go through the details of what may be in the budget. Obviously, it's 2 months away, and no Prime Minister and no Chancellor would ever sit here and indicate 2 months out what may or may not be in the budget. But the manifesto stands.
Well, hang on. Can you be crystal clear there? Because you're saying the manifesto stands right now, but I'm not going to talk about the budget. This is something you've ruled out dozens and dozens and dozens of times. You're ruling it out clearly right now.
The manifesto stands. We made those commitments. We stand by those commitments.
There's another issue that many people are worried about, which is special needs education for children, because the government's reviewing how it's provided. The system has had many problems over the years, so we don't need to outline the problems over the years. But would you rule out scrapping the legal right for children who need help with special needs at school?
Well, I don't want to take away rights, but we do need to reform this system.
So you might scrap that legal right?
Well, I'm not indicating that in the slightest, because we're looking at various options. What I'm doing is looking at the broad principles. As it stands, special educational needs doesn't work well for most people.
And
just hear me out, Laura, because PMQs, Prime Minister's questions, every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. The issue on which I've had more questions from across the House, so from Tories, from Lib Dem, and from my own side, the issue that's come up more than anything is special educational needs. And it is always MPs raising a concern in their constituency about the way in which special educational needs works at the moment. So we've got to look at that and we've got to improve it. Now, we haven't come to final decisions on that, and therefore I'm not in a position to lay out the proposals to you. We will do in due course, but I'm absolutely clear in my mind the current system isn't working, and I think pretty well across the House people accept that. We need to change it. I've actually issued an invitation to other parties to work with us on this because it's going to matter not just for the next year or two or three, but for many years to come, and so we need to get it right.
I know many parents and charities will be listening to the details of your answer very closely there. And before we move on, I just want to clarify something for the record. There's more detail in reporting from the Sunday Times today about a piece of land you bought for your parents many years ago. Did you put it into a trust?
No, I didn't. I bought a field for my mum and my dad because they loved donkeys, and my mum was very ill and she couldn't move around anymore. She, by the end of her life, had her leg amputated and she could barely communicate. She was very, very ill. She loved her donkeys and I wanted her to be able to see her donkeys. I was a lawyer, I had quite a lot of money. I bought a field for £20,000 at the back of their house and I said, here's your field, it's yours for as long as you may live, you could put your donkeys in it.
That's because
I didn't create the trust, I simply bought a field and I said to Mum and Dad, this is for you.
Okay.
It was, and also, by the way, Laura, it was £20,000. We're not looking at a vast estate with great tax.
It's a lot of money to many people, and you sold it many years later for more than £200,000. It is a lot of money, but the idea of setting up some complicated trust for a £20,000 agricultural field, which then housed 4 donkeys for all the time my mum and dad. It was my mum. She was able. They had a little outhouse at the edge of the field, and she was able, in the end, to see the donkeys. And my dad built a little sort of porchway so he could wheel the wheelchair out so she could touch the donkeys. That's what it was for, and I gave it to them. I had enough money at the time because I was a lawyer. It was a gift to my mum and dad. And that's now on the record. You did not put it in trust, and that's not been on the record before, and that is now on the record. What's Andy Burnham up to?
Well, he's doing a very good job as the Mayor of Manchester, and I work very closely with him, as I do with all the mayors. One of the things we've changed is the way government and mayors work, because mayors very much felt shut out by the last government. We now work with them, and I think Andy would be the first to accept that.
He's also been the first to say, but not the only person to say, that there are issues with your leadership. His colleague in London, Sadiq Khan, said he'd been raising legitimate concerns. And the point about this is that although I know it's awkward for you to talk about leadership, if you don't have the 100% confidence of your party, you can't get the things done that you want to do.
Comments about leaders and leadership are part and parcel of being in politics. It is the bread and butter of politics. Every leader gets it. It always comes out, particularly at conference. It's in the job description. I don't focus on that. I focus on what have we got to get done? What are we able to achieve? I focus on how can we drive... 2 million extra appointments for the NHS is what we promised. We've delivered 5 million. I'm really pleased and proud of that. We've won contracts for jobs, the like of which we haven't seen for years. I'm really proud of that.
Think about what's happened in Parliament. You've had to ditch some of your big plans because you couldn't carry your party with you. Think about why some people in your party are desperately worried about what's going on, because you have been miles behind in the polls for month after month after month. I've spoken to a lot of people in the Labour Party in the last few months about this, and there is wide and deep concern about the way in which you're doing your job. Is it wise to stick your fingers in and say, "Pah, leadership's just what happens"?
No, look, people are entitled to their views, and I'm not sticking my fingers in my ear in the slightest. What I am saying is that it is important to keep focusing what it is that we are delivering and saying absolutely in clear terms the difference it makes to people's lives. That Hillsborough law means that thousands of people, whether it's the 97 or Grenfell or Windrush or Horizon or infected blood and all the other scandals, will have a degree of justice, but other people will never have to go through that again.
But
it is going to change lives.
But Prime Minister,
the jobs in the Clyde for 15 years are going to change lives.
But Prime Minister, if people in your party and the public, which we can see through the polls, look at that list and look at you and think, We don't have much faith in that. We don't have that much faith in what this man is doing on our behalf. What if, Prime Minister, the problem is you?
Well, Laura, I will be judged at the next election on three things, I think, more than anything else. One, have we improved living standards? Do people genuinely feel better off? Two, have we improved public services? Is the NHS in a better place and people can feel it? And three, do people feel safe and secure in their home, in their neighbourhood, and that their country is secure? And I'm very happy and will be judged, rightly judged, in that way. We won a mandate, a considerable mandate. I led the party into that mandate. It's a 5-year mandate, and I'll be judged at the end of that 5 years, and quite right too. But I just need the space to get on and do what we need to do those three things above all else, but also in a world which is more volatile than any of us have known for a very long time, to ensure that the United Kingdom is safe and secure, which is why we're doing all the work we are on the Coalition of the Willing, making sure that on defence and security we are seen once again as a leading nation.
One of your Labour predecessors, when he was having a bit of bother, Harold Wilson, when asked what was going on with his leadership, he said, "I tell you what's going on, this government's going on and I'm going on." And John Major said to his critics, "Put up or shut up." What's Keir Starmer saying? Give me time, give me space?
I'm saying we have got the fight of our lives ahead of us, because we've got to take on reform, we've got to beat them. And so now is not the time for introspection or navel-gazing. There is a fight that we are all in together, and every single member of our party and our movement, actually everyone who cares about what this country is, whether they vote Labour or otherwise, it's the fight of our lives for who we are as a country. We need to be in that fight, united, not navel-gazing. I'm absolutely clear in my mind about that, and that's what I'm going to be talking about at the conference.
Prime Minister, thanks very much indeed for coming in to talk to everybody watching this morning. Thank you so much indeed for your time.